Welcome to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Danner, and the owner and founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a digital marketing agency that works exclusively with fencing and decking companies. And today I have another epic episode for you that I'm really excited about. In past episodes, you've been listening to some of the most recent ones. I was talking about the NADRA Summit Awards and kind of our experience there. And today I have another award winner from the NADRA Summit, and just going to be kind of going through some of the different details about him and his business, and also talking about how he won the award and kind of things that he put into it to win. So today I have Kelly Crow from Go-To Guy Home Services in Atlanta, and he won the Kelly, I believe it was first place in wood decks. Is it 26 to 50? Is that what it was?
It was, but it wasn't first place.
Okay, what was it?
It was third place.
Third place. Okay, nice. Okay.
I still consider that award-winning.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more coming up here. But Kelly, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. Thanks for inviting me. Great opportunity. I'm doing good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to chat about this. And Kelly and I were talking a little bit before the show, and right now it's March 11th when we recorded it, so things are starting to heat up probably everywhere, I'd say, in the U.S. Definitely down in Georgia where it's a little bit warmer. But Kelly and I haven't met before this podcast. Even at the summit, there's a million people there, so most of them you don't really get to meet, but it's cool we're able to do this over the podcast. And I really just like to get a little bit of information about you, Kelly, and maybe a little bit of a background, kind of how you got started and everything leading up to when you started Go-To Guy Home Services. Maybe your background and kind of what led to that would be great to hear.
Yeah, I grew up in Atlanta, so I'm a Georgian. Back in the 80s, I know that kind of dates myself, but back in the 80s, I was part of my family's group. We renovated and flipped houses around Atlanta. That's how I learned to swing a hammer, made all my mistakes. Then we built and renovated maybe 200 or 300 homes during that time. And that morphed for me personally into mortgages. I founded a company at that time that traded closed loans. And then we started buying them from banks. We were buying non-performing debt. We were buying it all over the country in almost all markets. And then I ran that trading company for 20 years until 2008, when I showed up one day and somebody had turned the lights out. The complete meltdown of the mortgage market and the government taking over pretty much all trading activity. There's really no more private traders, mortgage traders. So I got to reinvent myself, joined a national marketing company. The company came up with a product that we decided to turn into a business. So we went the startup route. We joined an incubator at Georgia Tech. That's a local university here. We ran that for a couple of years. Never could get the traction we needed. Couldn't find the market we were looking for with our product. Ran out of money. And then I thought, well, I always love building stuff. I'm going to go back to building. I was doing it for friends, family, word of mouth, and ended up, I love working outside. We were building decks, porches, outdoor carpentry projects. Back then I was still swinging a hammer myself. But that turned into Go-To Guy Home Services, where we just specialize on outdoor projects, carpentry projects. And it's mostly custom decks, covered porches, screen porches, and fencing and arbors, gazebos, alike. And we also build tree houses, which is a lot of fun. And so it kind of came full circle back from the 80s when I learned my way around the tools to being able to run a construction company and build really fun outdoor projects for folks.
Yeah. How long have you been in business now?
So this is our 6th year.
Nice.
We and when I say we, I'm a one-man shop. my model is completely subcontractor driven.
Okay.
And all those years back when I was a mortgage trader, I had employees. Um, and I was not looking forward to employees again in the future. I thought,
Yeah.
and I've seen other people's business models that had done something similar, and I thought, well, if I can find the right crews, the right subs, and so I've got 2 or 3 different sub crews. We've been working for over 5 years together, so
Nice.
they know my building methods, the
Yeah.
techniques, all the way we design things, the way we address challenges, the way I want railings attached. I mean, they've got my system down, and so that's how we build projects.
Nice. And I'm always curious because it seems like it's a pretty, maybe not, it's probably seemed like close to 50-50 with, companies that want to have in-house employees versus subcontractors, but maybe more on the subcontractor side. But I'm just curious, like, training a new crew that comes in, like, do you have any, I guess, ways that you go about training them? Is it all just like hands-on, or do you have any like SOPs and stuff to, tell them like the certain way that you want it built, or is it just kind of more, showing them in person?
Well, it's a lot of hands-on. Um, a lot of it is going over plans, going over the permitting plans, and reviewing them together and showing them the decisions that go into like a drop beam versus flush beam construction, or we're using through locks for beam to posts, just different philosophies that I have. And then I'm the project manager for these people, for these groups that I'm bringing on. But we've got 3 that we've had for 5 years, so I haven't had to do it like that. And if they bring on new employees, I'll come in and watch how they train them, or what they're telling them, and I have no problem in interjecting myself into their conversations about why, because at the end of the day, the customer's talking to me, and when I leave, this is my reputation. So everybody understands that we're doing it not to make it easy to build, but to do it for the customer. We're all customer centric. So I'm trying to avoid people thinking that shortcuts are all right, or that if it doesn't say it on the plans, they have some leeway. That's why with my input and with hands-on, anytime there's a gray area, they know where we're going.
Yeah.
Um, I find that an SOP would probably be super helpful if I was bringing in crews all the time, but I don't. So, but
Gotcha. Do they only work with you? So it sounds like are they full
no,
time?
some of them, no, none of them work with me exclusively. They all have other gigs. I mean, one of the groups builds log cabins in North Carolina, when they're not here in Atlanta,
Oh wow.
which is great, because I love that they're learning new skills, and they'll come back to the job and say, watch this, and show me something that they were doing, on these massive log homes up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I love learning I love learning new techniques and seeing why. And I'm not, I mean, the instructions come from the top down, but when I'm talking to these people who do this day in, day out for me and other people, I learn stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I'll say something, and then the guy will they'll look at me and go, well, what about this? And so I always say, I have strong opinions. They're just loosely held. There's more than one way to do something right. And so if I see something and they bring up something to me that makes more sense, I don't have any ego about do it my
Yeah.
way or no way. I just want it done right. And if they
Yeah.
have a very elegant method, I'm all in. That's how
Yeah.
I learned a lot of my, a lot of building techniques is that way. That and listening to podcasts like you, attending NADRA things,
Yeah.
YouTube videos, of people who are, amazing builders who have amazing techniques. But anyway, I get to implement all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I like hearing that about, kind of what you said, your ego is not involved. If an idea is better, you're happy to see it, kind of take over or whatever. And I think about that all the time. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me if you hire someone or use someone, to help you out, and you don't want them to like step in and think creatively, because at the end of the day that makes your life easier and then potentially better for your customer too. So it's always, and I feel like that does happen quite a bit. And quite honestly, in the construction industry, just friends and stuff that I know of or different owners, it seems like it can be an issue. So it's great that you're kind of look at it that way, because I feel like you want to have smart people working for you that come up with new innovative ways to do things to make your
Well,
business better.
I hire them for that, right? And so I hiring the right people who have these better ideas is the whole I mean, for me, the way I look at it, that's why I have them here. They're not order takers. They're not just doing what I tell them to do. And it helps keep the morale up with these guys too. And it's men and women on these crews. Um, they, if they feel bought into the project and they know that their input is being listened to, and we weigh it, and we'll have conversations and end up discarding the idea, but more than not, their ideas are better than mine. I mean, I'm not the smartest person on the site. But they have the buy-in, they have the morale, they know that they're when they bring it up to me that it's considered, and we talk through it, and we'll come to a halt and sit and look at the plans and sit there and talk about it over lunch and figure it out. Because every plan has a change somewhere, that it just never fails. And that's really how I think our projects become so successful, is that when you build your plans, you show up on the site and you start building it, and something changes for some reason, because that's just the way it is. How do you solve it?
Yeah.
In favor of the customer, elegantly, professionally, to code plus. Because we have multiple masters we're trying to serve. Obviously, we have inspections that come on, but the customer, at the end of the day, they don't want to see us out there floundering or arguing, or or just not. We like to have a cohesive outdoor group of all the guys. I mean, they're always laughing, and I mean, it's never a contentious battle. I mean,
Yeah.
we have strong opinions sometimes, but anyway, empowering the guys on the site, I find, gets the best out of them. And we'll even have conversations like, is this the best option you can come up with for this challenge? And we may come up with a couple more, and some of the other guys may have an input. But anyway, it's not just they get hired, show up, do the work, leave, plug.
Yeah.
It's anyway, I find that partnership of the guys we work for is what
Yeah.
gets the best work out
It's
of
almost
all of
like,
us. It makes me think harder too.
yeah. Well, it seems like you have a good culture, even though they might not be like your actual employees, but at this point, they're well, close to full time, it sounds like, and you've been working with them for 5 years. So you can still, I think it's cool, and probably just um, maybe good to know for anyone that's thinking about getting in with subcontractors. Like, I guess it seems like it is possible to build a good culture within your crews, even if they're not your actual employees, because that usually seems to be a pretty big worry of contractors that are deciding between the two. I don't know. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I think I think other companies, at least from what my experience is, they kind of start, well, they'll start by themselves and a helper. I don't know. That's kind of how I started. Um, and you either end up moving into employees, like you get your guys and you use them all the time, and they work for you and they're W-2s, and through thick or thin, you got to keep them busy, happy. If they move on without you, you're back to yourself. So yeah, I found it was kind of we kind of, we grew from me doing it with helpers, and I've never had employees, but I would have the same guys help me over and over again. I went out searching for fully formed crews who knew how to do this, that we could have conversations with. I could go look at their work. I had other people that I knew who told me, oh yeah, they do really great work. I would go out to their actual sites on other people's jobs and just kind of walk around and see what they're doing. just, from a side, I'm trying to judge what I'm looking at. But if you're a new crew, if you're a construction company and you're trying to balance it, it seems like you start with employees and wean yourself off of them until subcontractors. I see that a lot. And then occasionally you have people who have like an employee who's a project manager, which kind of seemed like a natural fit. Um, Someday I might go back to that, from that point of view. So I can't really see how you could have I've thought about, I can't see how you can have a project manager who's, you know, 1099, but it's possible, I guess. Just depends on how busy you are. And I still, I don't know. I mean, it's not ego, but I think it's control. I still like to be the guy that comes out on site and make sure everything's going like it's supposed to go.
Gotcha. That makes
I
sense.
think, the one thing I don't have, here's my thought about being an employee or doing it myself and having subs, is that I only have so many hours a day, a week, a month I can use. And if I have to do jobs, like I'm on site and I'm not in the office selling, talking to leads, planning the business, ordering materials, doing all the other stuff I do. So I'm taking time from one place from it to do another job. And so I try to limit that, and having established crews that I work with lets me step back because I know it's getting done and go back to the other hats I'm wearing, running the business. And it's as labor intensive as, being on site. But I feel like if I had employees, I would have more managing to do. If I had actual W-2 employees, I'd have more managing to do, and then I'm taking more time away. So that's why I still feel comfortable with the subs taking care of most of the business. I mean, we sub our plans, our engineering, all of that. So
Gotcha. And how many different projects are you doing in a year, or what'd you do or last year?
we average about 40.
Okay. So I looked at your Instagram. Are you doing more like custom work, or you do a lot of like smaller cookie cutter decks? I mean, do you have a preference?
My preference is, well, the cookie cutter decks, that's just kind of, it's low resource requirements. We can design them quickly. We can get the plans together. It usually goes through the permitting office, at the speed of government here in Atlanta, which is whatever it is. And it can get done, and I don't have a lot of on-site working with the crews to make sure any special detail gets done. Kind of like you can build it and leave it, and I can come back at the end and we can finish it up and make sure it's all there. But the more custom projects are the ones where we have more of a lead up time. Engineered beams, maybe metal framing, something that, and all requires an engineer. So we've got to work on our plans right. Then we've got to run it by, for review and the stamp. And then that's just to start, then we get it to the permit office where we have, it's more of a process. There's more to it. But I personally like the ones where there's unique aspects of it, or, combos like deck and covers, roof cover, some kind of porch, and or some type of hardscape at the bottom of the deck or around it, or lighting, just something that's a little more interesting about the project. I also find that these combo projects also, on average, have higher margins. There's more different pieces that go into it. Lighting is a separate package, and if it's a gazebo, it can have a metal roof, it can be open. I mean, it just gives more opportunity for creativity, but also for profit. I mean, we find that, the more you can add to a project for a customer, the less they're really thinking about the value of the project versus the quality of the project. they have a vision and we're trying to bring it out of them and create it for them and then build it. Those are all the stages, right? They have an idea, you get it on paper, you get it in plans, you show them renderings, and then you got to go make it happen. And it's got to be what they were thinking, or they're not going to be happy. So
Yeah.
that requires a lot of concentration. And anyway, I enjoy those more. They end up usually being more profitable than the cookie cutter ones. If you think about the cookie cutter ones, they're kind of like a commodity.
Yeah.
It's a 12 by 16. Those kind of customers who are, are still awesome customers, but they will always go out and get a handful of different estimates. And, if it's just 12 by 16, everyone's got a price for that. And we're never the low price. I mean, I tell folks that in our phone consultations and when we're feeling out the lead to see if it's a good fit. I mean, we usually end up mentioning at some point after we ask them if they're looking for quality versus value, that we are not going to be the low price, and no matter how many bids you get, we'll probably be the highest, if not among the highest. And if it's still a good fit from there, then that's great. But the cookie cutter decks, those are just kind of, like I said, they're a commodity. And so, everybody, and even, I mean, we're competing against, unlicensed companies.
Yeah.
Because that's a weekend project, really, for 3 or 4 days, without permitting and without inspections, those decks can get built in 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing it the other way, I mean, you're talking about a few weeks. So, but if it's the more complex, though I have to concentrate more, it's more rewarding in the end. And those are the ones when you step back and you take pictures of it at the end, you think, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah. What do you do the sales, Kelly?
I do. Yeah. This hat is for all jobs.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. We have a CRM that has an AI component that gets our leads in the door and gets them scheduled, with phone consultations, and it does a brief qualification. The phone consultation is really where I mean, we're a follower of Shen Fu, the qualifying method. We're looking for their motive, their money, who the influences are. I'm listening for BS. We're trying to make sure it's a good fit and that we're having an authentic conversation. And you can tell right away if it's just about money.
Yeah.
And if it's just about money, we're not a good fit.
Yeah.
Because we don't really compete on price. We compete on quality, being a turnkey solution. I mean, I like to have authentic conversations on a human level with somebody I'm talking to, even if it's on a Zoom call or on the phone. And if I can't get that, or if it's superficial, or if it's, I mean, you can tell if it's clicking or not, if you do it enough. And if it's not, I realize it's just not everybody is a good fit. I mean, I probably talk to 200 people a year and we build 40 decks. So,
well, I mean, one thing that really stands out and has got me thinking ever since we first spoke before we started recording, that's really interesting. Like one of the first things I said to you, I liked how you had all your swag, your company clothes, like the vest, the orange, the hat. I mean, it definitely stands out, and to the point where nobody I've ever seen kind of has like, I guess it stood out to me like that. Usually it's pretty standard, like t-shirts or polos or whatever. So it really has got me thinking ever since, like I said, since we started talking about with like decks, you like the more creative projects. So it's kind of crazy to me that I've never thought of people kind of trying that and incorporating that into the brand a little bit to show like how creative and I guess different you are. Because if you have the same people kind of showing up in the same exact type of thing, you have someone like you that's just wearing the vest and everything just kind of stands out. The hat, it's just not the normal attire. If you're trying to create something really cool and really creative, an outdoor piece like you like to do, I mean, what better than to see someone that kind of stood out in that regard too? So I just, it's got me thinking, like, if that's really helped you kind of stand out, and people mention that just because you just do things a little bit different in that regard, and people like it, I would imagine.
Yeah, as I stepped away from swinging a hammer, I've focused more on my presentation to customers about how I show up. Um, I don't want to show up like I'm wearing a tool belt with, with dirt all over me, as if I
Yeah.
just came off a job site. I mean, there are folks that do that, who actually do that because that's how they build, and that's great. But, authentically, for me to show up, I'm now a step behind, I'm step back from that, in that I'm running the business. I'm the face of it. Things are going to happen behind me because of our, conversations with a customer, but I'm showing up like this. I mean, I'm just what I'm wearing because that's the face, and I want them to know that there's a professional making the decisions and working with them to achieve what it is they've called me for. Because, the first question I ask is, after we get through the niceties, and I thank them for their time and ask them if it's a good time to have our talk that they scheduled, is, how is it I can help you? Or, we ask it different ways, what is it you're hoping I can help you with? And then we listen. But I want them to think that they have a professional who, because they do, have a professional who's listening to them, writing down notes, and making sure that the things they say are important, their bullet points and their wish lists. I've heard it, and I can talk to them about it and how we can incorporate it in their project. Like this picture behind me. This
Hmm.
is the deck we won the NADRA award with. Um, this customer had all sorts of requirements that she was just talking. As they're coming off the top of her head. She's a very creative person. She's in the movie business here in Atlanta, where a lot of folks are. Um, and as we got all her ideas down, it just started dawning on us of a way, or me, to create this. And we went through several, I mean, lots of iterations, but it just kept getting less and less cookie cutter and more custom, which is perfect, the direction we want to go. And like I mentioned, I think we weren't recording at the time, but I'm looking for, that magic, or that spark happens when you have the right customer and the right circumstances, that you can use certain type of material and design it with some leeway and some artistic flair, and just have some, given the opportunity to make it out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like taking the fence line behind me and offsetting it in different ways, so that it presents depth when you look at it, and you can have small alcoves, and the way we took the boards and carried them all the way around in an L at the same orientation. And they were 6-inch boards and 4-inch boards. And we carried it all the way around, even around each cut. Took forever. And actually, this one, our margins kind of went out of the window as we started really getting into it. And Ipe, that's one thing about hardwoods. They require so much effort to get right. And it's slow moving. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're pricing hardwood projects, is that it takes literally twice as long. It's not materials; it's always the labor that it takes to get it right. So you're on there a few more days than you thought you'd be. But anyway, like, so those kind of projects and inputs and things, that combination of customer, materials, budget. I mean, budget's a big part of it. Um, that's a great opportunity. And when I was in the mortgage trading business, we would have deals that were just cookie cutter deals. We'd buy 100 loans, sell them. But every now and then we'd have, 1,000 loans. And we would call those home runs, because you get to do a lot at once. And so throughout the year, there's a lot of cookie cutter stuff in the deck business. There's a few singles and doubles, but then occasionally you get something where everything comes together, and we call those home runs. This was kind of a home run, though it wasn't a super expensive project. It was creatively a home run for
Yeah.
us.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, I'm just curious too, since you were talking about it, and I've I would like to know as well, just so I'm informed, but maybe also for deck builders that haven't dabbled with hardwoods. Um, what ends up taking up, or making it twice as long? I'm curious myself, like what really goes into it where it's just, I mean, I know they have like long-term maintenance issues and stuff like that, but in terms of like the build, like what ends up like, creating that extra time.
Well, it's wood, so it naturally has imperfections, even though it's Ipe, which is just super, on the Janko hardness scale, it's one of the hardest woods in existence. If you've ever seen that, they rank woods from hardwoods to softwoods, and pressure treated decking way at the bottom. Ipe is at the top, but Ipe literally has an indefinite lifespan. They say we've never done it, but they, you can bury it, you can put it underwater for 20 years, pull it out, and it's still good.
Wow.
I don't know. But I do know that every screw you put in, you have to pre-drill it. You can buy it grooved on the sides for hidden fasteners, but we find that hidden fasteners don't really control this wood well enough when we're putting it down. So we have to face screw all of them and then plug them. And then, I mean, we plug a lot of decks, composite materials too, but every board has to be screwed from, along the whole length of the board, and then plugged with Ipe plugs. So you're pre-drilling, you're screwing, you're plugging. That's a 3-step process. The drills wear out, the drill bits, we go through a bunch of them, 10 or 12 on every project. The saw blades, same thing, they wear out. Like halfway through, you got to change the blades. All the ends we coat with a wax emulsion. It just keeps it from checking. We do all the extra steps. We don't on Ipe decks, because the material is so hard and long lasting. We just find that, and the boards are so expensive that we take extra care in cutting them, measuring them. I mean, we always order extra material for when we cut it, that much too short, because that happens. We're all human. But just the prep of the boards, after we cut them, we've got guys, painting the ends with the emulsion. We have 3 or 4 guys drilling at the same time, drilling the holes where the screws are going to go, and then somebody comes through with the stainless steel screws. And if you do that on a 300 square foot deck, and like in this picture with this privacy fence behind it, I mean, that's, just screwing in a couple of days, so. And that's on, like most composite decks, we're a decorators, we install mostly decorators products. The groove boards and, with the hidden we use camo hidden fasteners. It's the best thing out there, and have for years. But the, Starburn makes screw plugs, plugs for all the screws for when we have to face screw them. Those decks go down slightly differently. We can lay 20-foot boards, put hidden fasteners along the length of them. We can put 5 boards together and screw them all at once. And then, screw down the ends if we've got breaker boards or a picture frame. Ipe, even if it's hard, if you don't screw it down properly, as it starts to dry, it'll start to move.
Yeah.
It still moves. It's not steel. So we just have to tame it, work it. And the dust, we're supposed to, I wear a mask when I work with it. I require that the guys keep their PPE on all the time. They're subs, so they do how they want to do it, but it's apparently not a real super healthy dust. I mean, none of the dust is. You don't want to breathe in treated lumber either, but the Ipe especially will aggravate your sinuses. And at the end of the day, it's like you've been working in a coal mine.
Wow.
Your sinuses are full of this dust. And there's other hardwoods too. And we're lucky that in our market, in north of town, there's an importer place that imports, Garapa, Ipe, Kurumu, Tigerwood. I'm forgetting a few, but so it's all there for the taking. We can just go up there, order it. They'll mill it with grooves. They'll, do what we have to, however we ask for it. It's a special material, and we find that and it'll gray out. Like this behind me, this is new. In a year, it'll have lost its fade. It'll start to fade. Now you can put it in and then oil it. There's an epay oil. Several companies make a preserve. It's not a preservative. It's like an oil. It just keeps the color.
Yeah.
And it'll fade again even if you do it. And then after it fades out, you clean it and then you re-oil it, and it kind of brings the luster back to the wood. And you can do that over and over and over again. I literally don't know how many years in a row or how often it'll bring it back, but it's for a long time. And so that's maintenance, right? And some customers, when you talk to them about it'll gray out, like a fence, like a pressure treated fence board will gray out, they're looking for low maintenance. At least that's our mantra for most projects. Is we try to bring a low maintenance philosophy. You don't want to have to stain your deck. You don't want to have to be on a ladder painting pickets, on the back of your railing. You don't want to have to be changing out split boards or knots that come in, or especially you don't want splinters, and you don't want fasteners working up into your, so that it's not a barefoot deck. So, customers who are now used to the low maintenance mantra, when they pick a hardwood, it's a special customer. And I know some folks, I mean, at NADRA, you saw the massive epay projects. People love it, but it requires a certain type of customer. I know folks that install it on their beach house decks because the weather. I've got a friend who lives in Ponte Vedra, Florida. They're on the water. Their deck's epay. It's ash gray, and it's been through 2 hurricanes, and it's fine.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they have it there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, then, at the summit, I want to kind of change gears a little bit?
Yeah.
Over the NADRA stuff. I mean, did you submit for any other awards, or you just do the one that you received an award for?
I did. I submitted a pool deck that we built with decorators. And apparently the pool deck competition is brutal at NADRA. So the pool decks I saw there that won, I mean, they really humble you when you see that kind of work and the scope of the project and all the the artistry that went into them. And I like to think that, they've got that magic combination of customer, material, locations, all that. But yeah, we submitted to the epay one and a pool deck. I didn't really have any expectations. I just thought, I want to go to this event. This is the first one I've been to. And if so, I should submit something.
Yeah.
So I went through the year's work, and these were the 2 I came up with. And actually, at the NADRA event, you were there, they went through a bunch of awards and they had a break, I don't know, coffee or dessert or something. And I thought, yeah, I'm just going to go back to the room, get ready for my 6 a.m. flight. And then right when it started up again after the break, that was the first award. And I'd almost missed it because I was like, I'm just tired. I'm going to go to bed early and go pack for tomorrow. And the first award was, and they call the third place first, third, second, and then the winner. So I was happened to be there too when they awarded it. So I just felt, well, I appreciate the Beaudries even having this, the NADRA. It's just an amazing resource. And I've been a member for almost 5 years, but I haven't really participated like this before. But having the opportunity to go and see other people's work and meet, people at your table, people at the think tank conversations they were having, I can't tell you how much I learned through osmosis from seeing this kind of stuff. I take away more than I get when I'm there.
Yeah.
But it's just a great opportunity. And it was literally unexpected. I mean, I know it's a 3rd place award, but still I felt lucky to be in that place at the right time, in those circumstances.
I mean, it's 3rd place, but it's 3rd place out of all the potential decks out there in that frame, which is, I don't even know how many, but I'm guessing a ton. So.
Well, it inspires me to do better work. because when I see the techniques people are using and how they're implementing certain materials, it makes me want, I have other ideas, and on plans we're working on now for future projects, we're trying to incorporate details we saw in those. I mean, because all the pictures are on the NADRA site, so I can refer back to them like, oh, that water feature or the lights they did on that wall, or
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff. It's amazing work. I mean, how else do you learn, right? I mean, you see people who are experts and masters at it, and that lets you take away whatever small details you can and implement in yours.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Is that your first year? Have you been part of NADRA for a while or just recently joined?
Almost 5 years I've been a
Okay.
member, but that's the first any event I've been to.
Okay. Gotcha. So you do any of the okay, first overall events I mean, you joined NADRA, like, I guess, are there any parts of it that you have used, like, either for networking or anything like that? Or was this really, this the first year that you started doing it?
Yeah, well, I guess I joined to see what it was about, because of some different people I follow, deck builders, they mentioned it a lot. And I thought, these people who I value, I love their work. I should maybe explore this. And I do that all the time with materials and techniques and things. Like you hear people or hear it from people who are obviously experts at what they do, and I try to learn from. And NADRA was on everyone's lips. I thought, well, I'll see what that's about. I joined. Um, immediately you're enmeshed and looking at people's work, and thoughts, and the way they write in their, on their sites about just philosophy of building, which makes my mind go in all different directions I hadn't thought of before. It helps me focus more, actually. But then this event, the NADRA event, um, to be in the same place where all these people I'd seen their work on YouTube or Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
um, and they're standing there winning an award for some amazing project. Um, it makes me double down on my work and
Yeah.
designing, and even business practices, because you're talking about the networking part of it. A lot of the networking is, for me, you know how did you switch to all metal framing and no more wood? I'm at the conversation, right? Like, why do you
Yeah.
use this product versus that? Or, how's your market, and because we're all from different parts of the country, what's it like in your neck of the woods, and how are you doing this? And what's your experience at the permit office, and how do you get your plans done, and who does your engineer? I mean, just every aspect of it. But then in the local Atlanta market, they have twice a year, they have NADRA has an event here. It's at a shooting range, an indoor shooting range
Yeah.
north of
Mhm.
Atlanta. And I had missed the last one, and I went to the one, I guess it was late February, and got to see a lot of the people I'd seen at the Florida event. The Baudrys were there, um, and other companies, local ones that I know of that I've never met. So I got to meet them too. I,
Yeah.
I think I think if you're serious, wherever you are in the country, if you're serious about your business, I don't see, and actually, this is not my original thought, which a lot of my thoughts aren't original because I heard them somewhere and then processed it. But other companies aren't really competition. They're just, if you look at every other company as somebody that's taken a dollar out of your pocket, I think you're limiting your ability to learn something.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
and in a market like Atlanta, which is huge, massive, there's some giant hitters here in this city, in and around Atlanta. I mean, companies that do millions and millions of dollars of business, um, and and I don't consider them competitors. I learn from them. And if I don't build a deck, some other super qualified company is going to build that deck. They have that same opportunity. And that may just be the way it is, right? I may not get it, but I know that there's a really good chance if one of these other companies gets it, the customer is going to have an amazing experience. That's great. I don't feel like they're taking money out of my hand and food out of my mouth because they get the project and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's been a few years, 2 or 3, when I changed the mindset on that. And then from these companies who previously I'd thought of as, oh, they got that job and I didn't, is that now I follow them on Instagram and look at their work. And I'll send them a note every now and then, like, that's an amazing feature on the stairs. I love the way you did your riser covers, or, the feature you did to hide the stringers. I mean, I just find that if you can support them and just kind of share ideas, and if they're of the same mindset, I think it raises everybody's expectations and skill level and enjoyment of the industry.
Yeah.
Anyway, and NADRA helps that, right? I mean, NADRA helps you stand around and look at each other. I mean, if you're all competitors, we can't really sit at the same table. I
Yeah.
mean, so you have to kind of lose that thought process. But there's still plenty of companies that don't want anything to do with anybody else, and that's fine. That's their deal. But I find I even enjoy my job more having networking opportunities with
Yeah.
other
It's
deck
more fun.
builders.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have tons in common.
Yep.
Decks. And like I said, I can go deep nerd deck talk anytime with anybody about most subjects and really enjoy it. And having other people around that do the same thing, and I'm learning from it, I think that's great. It's a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
And I mean, they're other business owners too. So not only the same topics you guys have in common, but can be lonely having your business, and if you don't have partners or whatever. So it's another person that can understand all the pains and stuff you go through as well. And probably a good chance they have some kind of solution for it too. Or
Yeah.
somebody does. Definitely at that whole NADRA summit, there's probably every solution you could possibly, or every problem you could possibly have, there's someone there with the exact solution you need.
That's so true. I mean, someone's already lived through it, right? And they've already
Yeah.
solved it.
Yeah.
And
So
instead of having to like come up with it from scratch, I have a basis for something, a way to approach it, address it, fix it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Last question. I was just curious with the award, do you plan on like advertising it, or putting it on anything you give to customers, when you're trying to, when you're quoting them out, or trying to get a new job?
Well, we were slow taking advantage of the awards, but we've started putting on all the material we provide to customers, and our website and Instagram and Facebook pages. I mean, the first thing you add is award-winning,
Yeah.
because that's legitimate. And I say legitimate because I see some websites sometimes, or Instagram pages, and I'm looking at the builder's photos, and I'm thinking, I've seen those before. And you can do a Google search of an image and find that people have put on their websites lifted pictures from other projects, from other places. And and I think that being authentic, and we show the award on our website, it's on our blog now. It says third place. We're trying to be authentic. We're not trying to be something we're not. But we also want to show people what we are, which is, we're continually raising our game. How we do it is our secret sauce, but it's a big part of our identity now, in that, I mean, because I look at some of these big companies here in the Atlanta area who have won dozens of awards over decades, right? And we're just kind of a small fry to them. But we think of ourselves as a boutique builder. We're not for everybody. I mean, I'm not putting the swimming pool in somebody's house when I'm building the deck. That's just not my business. And there's companies that do all of it, amazingly well. I mean, just spectacularly well. And if that's a customer that wants all that, there's a builder for them.
Yeah.
But from us, we're winning awards. We're trying really hard to up our game with design. When they talk to us, they're going to get an authentic conversation, and they're not going to be routed to a faceless salesperson, or and there's nothing wrong with salespeople, but for me, I try to be the face of it all. And maybe is that sustainable? I don't know. You're the expert on this. At some point it may not be sustainable for me to keep doing it that way, but I'm one thing I've tried to be is open to new ways to do things. So I may change it in the future, but I'm trying to show up as myself, representing what we've done, showing our work in the best possible light. And then, the important part is doing what we say we're going to do. There's so many construction stories start, they came out here and did everything, everything was great. And at the end of the day, it's left half undone, or, it didn't pass inspection and they left. I mean, whatever those stories are, we try to make sure that the story that we come in authentically is the one we end with. And it's, from the start to finish, we say what we're going to do. That's really what business comes down to, I think. If we say we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And if it's going to be in this budget, it's in this budget. And if it's within this time frame and it's within our means to make it within that time frame, we will. So I mean, the customers that react positively to that kind of conversation, I mean, there are, that's a good fit for us, and we consider that part of our, who we consider our customer profile.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I know, Kelly, I know you got a million things going on. The busy season's coming up, so I don't want to keep you too long. But I do appreciate you going through all that, and I really enjoyed the talk and kind of going, tend to go on some tangents, and that's kind of how the best way to do it, in my opinion. So I like doing that personally better than, following whatever kind of plan I had to begin with. So there's a lot, I know everybody that's going to listen to this, will get a lot of value from it. So I appreciate you, being so transparent with everything. And just so everyone knows, going forward on the podcast, the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast, we're still, I think, back on track with the weekly podcast. So we'll keep releasing new ones every week. And if you did get some value from it, it helps us out a lot if you can review it or subscribe to the podcast. It doesn't take long and can really help us out. And now that we're getting into March here and the busy season's really kicking off, and Kelly said it's already very busy where he's at, and the more northern states should be kicking off within the next month or so too. But if you have any questions about your marketing, want to make sure you're taking advantage of everything that's coming and really just start the year off right, feel free to reach out. We can do an audit, check out what you have, or if you have any questions, happy to go over that. So feel free to reach out through our website at deckfencemarketers.com. And that's about it, Kelly. I appreciate again you coming on here, and hope the rest of the year goes really well and you keep killing it.
Well, thanks, Alex. Thanks for the opportunity too. I mean, I love talking about this business. There aren't a lot of opportunities like this to do it in a podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And take care. And I'm sure we'll see you. Hopefully I'll see you or talk with you before the next NADRA Summit if you go to that. But I'll definitely be there. So I'm sure we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, I'll be sure to talking to you soon.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.